Michael McGilligan from Viridian Developments. Today we've been modelling the Sun Villages 50-unit apartment in Queanbeyan in New South Wales, and been looking at not just getting different ways of stacking the project up and modelling it as a build-to-rent model, but also making sure we're structuring as much resources and equity and wealth and nourishment into the community. We want to soak the value of this project into the community as much as possible. Capitalism has a way of extracting, and also using these mechanisms as an opportunity for regenerative development, as a developmental journey for the people. So it's that regenerative development, regenerative finance, regenerative wealth category of that I've been playing with. And I'm not an expert, no one is in this field. We're really at the coalface of a lot of this work and seeing how it plays out on the ground. So just as an overview of a development like this, traditionally you would sort of look, say, $40 million. You're sort of looking at 40-60 equity to debt ratio. So we need about 16 million in equity, and the rest can be in debt. Sun Village's model was designed off no debt, a no debt system where people didn't need the banks. I like modeling with debt because it's a high leverage. That's how the rich get rich. It's through leverage of assets that are leveraged higher than the money that they put in, so you get more return on your equity. And I'm just modeling all options, and this is just where we are now. So starting with, this is just the potential of some of the things coming up. We've got the Sun Villages equity pool at the bottom, potential of grant, maybe some philanthropic if we reach out. We've got the Sun Villages co-op that we can work from, so that can be in this scenario an equity, part of the equity pool. Probably syndicate that we're going to put together for unsophisticated investors, so up to $2 million, and the rest can be sophisticated investors, so just local people from the region. And then a 50% debt, so that's like a safer sort of more resilient modeling, 50-50 on the debt. So a lot of these people or people at the end of the day are in place, so that you want to get all the equity and money flowing in. The thing with debt is, if it comes from the bank or anything, that's that flow out. So I like to think of money and water are very similar, but they flow in opposite directions despite what the World Economic Forum will tell you, the trickle-down economics. There's water flows, the intelligence of water really wants it to flow down and stay low, and it nourishes the earth, where money is designed to flow up. That's the structure of the system. So one way I like to think of it is just like when we're nourishing the land, so the rain coming off and the river flowing away, if it's too focused and it's too streamlined to just even flow out of that ecosystem, we can naturally dam it up or put in swales to soak away into the ground, or we can put in that these are natural structures, or we can put in a more man-made structure like a reservoir to hold that water in place. And money's the same but opposite. So that's what I'm always thinking of. Who is in place that we can raise money from sophisticated, unsophisticated investors, or the rest of it, and for the money that goes out, what structures can we put into place to hold that down? And so I was sort of just roughly playing this out. Equity is already in place. Also, not just the structures, but how can they be structured from a regenerative way? So how can we repattern the way we are doing things? So the Sun Village equity is from people in that region, and also it's the project that's going to be regenerative development. So they're getting, they're facing that work anyway. The grant's just money coming in. The philanthropic, I was thinking in terms of we could be working with that philanthropic organisation to show them the real power behind living systems frameworks, particularly related on living system development, and help them sort of see new ways of how they work in that sector. They do amazing work. I've talked a lot of shit about them in the past, admittedly, but I'm starting to see a few more areas of my ways, particularly when I was viewing what had been and not seeing the potential of what could be if we think in these terms. And I've seen recently how working with philanthropics and other types of donor organizations. The people on the ground are great, regardless of the fact that most of the money is blood money that's they're washing their hands. Donors are washing the blood off their hands with by and by. So Sun Village's model, a structure, they're cooperative, that's a structure that can be looked at regeneratively. Property syndicate, definitely. Sophisticated investors. This is also a way of stacking up the deal. So we're not just giving them, oh, this is your return on the deal. We're thinking about what is regenerative wealth in the sense of what are the other values you get from investing in this project? So are they learning, are we bringing them on the journey so they can learn not just property development, but the regenerative property development and bring that into their lives? Are they bringing that from a finance perspective into their businesses, or are they maybe thinking about regenerative business from this work and from the experience and exposure they get from just investing in this project that they wouldn't have got otherwise? Then there's the funds and the more the higher manager, more intense, more maintenance structures. These have the most potential, but are the most costly. And like here, I was saying, like, I actually had this here, and then when I put the money in, I'm like, oh, actually, no, you wouldn't bother putting a fund in here. But getting all that, the fund can be structured rather than an equity fund. On the debt half, the fund could be structured as a debt fund, or structured as a hybrid of debt and equity, but just starts with raising equity and raising debt in place for the development. So that's where it came in, another structure for us to play with, where we can use it as a form of regenerative finance and wealth. So breaking down the three structures, the Sun Villages Co-op, this is genius. This is an absolutely genius structure, and has nothing to do with me, but I'm going to jump on the bandwagon because I love it. So it's like anyone can jump in. It's about 10 to 20k investment. So it's just people that want to lease in these Sun Villages models, but don't have massive savings but want to get a foot on the property ladder. They can build this up over time as a community, investing in not just the Sun Villages model that they might live in, but the network of the Sun Villages models that are going to go around the country. So that's really cool. So it can be equity finance and debt finance. So this is really powerful for me because having that soft cost, so development is like soft cost developer has to pay, and then you get building and finance, and then the finance, the debt comes in on a traditional development. So this is front loading. You want to get as much of this mezzanine, this junior type debt instruments into the front, so the developer can do the thing to raise the value to then get the finance. So very powerful for us. And blended finance model. So this can be structured with local investors, so keeping the money in place, just local people putting some savings in and investing in their own region, contributing to their own region, learning regeneratively, unrestricted, so it could be a massive community that comes from it. A unique community because they're a bracket or doing the same type of thing, putting in the same projects in a local area. That's a unique autonomous sort of unit. So to me, I see straight away like a living being, a whole living being that we could work with. So yes, awesome regenerative development models we could work with this team. So in this development, say 50 people at 20k in the area, that's that 1 million where that came from. So the syndicate under unsophisticated investors in a syndicate in Australia anyway, we've got the 2012 rule of where to be investing in commercial stuff, shares and things like that in Australia, there's restrictions, and most places in the world, there's restrictions on having sophisticated people doing it. But we've got this rule where 20 people can come together, investing up to 100k each in a year, for a maximum, like a total of 2 million. It doesn't have to be 100k, but that's just the rough numbers. So this is equity. So again, awesome for stacking up a development. That's the hard bit. Can be taken from local investors. Restricted number. So it changes the dynamics. It's like now this is a group that's a tight group. It can only be this group. And so that's a really unique community as well, and another living whole. So it's like, yes, excellent, tick, regen dev, love that. And then there's the fund. So it could be either or. You could just straight away we could just create a fund, get investors into this and go from there. It wouldn't open up the door, potentially. I won't go into details, but either or. But when I was trying to pull 100% of the money, whether debt or equity, into that local region, so that even when the profits are made, hopefully they're sort of recycled in that area to empower the community. So yeah, if I structure a hybrid fund that starts as a debt instrument on the first project, and then making some money and proving up the model, and then raising from local people, and then building out to a regenerative development equity fund. So that's a very high management, high cost, but super high potential. And local investors, unrestricted number, so a different vibe again, and but definitely a unique community. And this is, when I say community, this is like really, you can really structure how this is going to flow. Like it's not, it's a different animal. So yes, regen dev, and who knows. So how sort of looking at those, okay, we've flipped that escape, just like we've got sort of more natural localized systems and a more structured system. We've got the co-op and the syndicate of locals, and then this fund that we are raising from locals, but it's a much more structured form of doing this. So all the money is going to stay. Now, it's not saying that the people aren't taking the money, the profits from this, and pooling it in their own resources and sending it upchain somewhere, or still holding it out of the flow of the community. But it's a good first step, and it's just how we like to think of things. But there's still money sitting on the table here, and I don't like leaving good money on the table. So that fund is a managed fund. There's an opportunity there to establish a clip of the management fee for the management of that fund, and then bake that back into the local area as well, because that would have gone, unless you choose a local fund manager, which would be very restricted in this area, then you have to take a fund manager from somewhere, money going out of the system. So thinking of this is not just the building, but it's like a bioregional, there's bioregional learning center for this area. So yes, it's the same building, but also that sort of commercial communal space on the bottom, being that bioregional learning center. Well, maybe that could be an advisor to the fund, and we're structuring. I'm raising the money for this, so like this is what I can structure. I'm not pandering. I put my hand out. So structuring the a 0.5% fund under management per annum clip. So I mean, 20 million of, say, that debt finance. 0.5. It's about 100K a year that the bioregional learning center would get. Not thinking about other costs, and so you think that could be, and that wasn't going to be there before. So structuring this in, what it means is you have the bioregional learning center informing the fund of where this regenerative ecosystem is trying to evolve and why, and advise on the best assets for the fund to grow. Because this is only first step. You want this up into the hundreds of millions, this fund, activating and transferring into debt to reactivate more and more, and bake more money and more regenerative infrastructure into this region. And this 100K might not sound like much at the start, but that could be 1 to 2 years of runway of getting a grant writer in for the beginning, just full time, creating more grants or pulling more money in to sort of bootstrap this bioregional learning center in place until it's a functioning organism. And while all these things settle into place, it just takes time for things to establish and settle in. So that was my thinking for today.